Um, Zach, I had a question for you about your sort of early staff days, and maybe um, you know, jumping into just being a staff person for the first time, number one, but then number two, stepping into your first time stepping into bigger roles or other roles, right? Were there any big mistakes, challenges, like learning moments for you uh, in those years?
Um, I don't know, mistakes really. I think the biggest thing is, just learning how to like work with work with other people. Um, that's a challenge for anybody in any profession. Um, so, just we're all, obviously you're all on the same team. You all have your needs, what the color guard needs versus what the brass and the percussion need are different. But, at the end of the day, we do have to come together and put this thing together. So I think it's, really just learning how to, be a great team player. And it's not always pretty. Tour is long. It's hot. You know, those two things alone can change your how you feel. um, and then there's other factors too. What are our facilities? What's the weather? Blah blah blah. There's so many things that go into planning any day. And are we all going to be able to do what we need to do as in our own individual sections, so that when we do come together, everybody's ready to go. I think those were definitely things that you have to just kind of get better at as you go through it. Certain kinds of personalities are, and myself included. I mean, I'll throw myself into the mix as well. It's tough. You have to do what you have to do for your sections, and you have a way that you're going to do it, a process. But coordinating all that, making sure everybody gets what they need, and everybody's staying sane and feeling good about what's going on. It's just something that kind of comes over time, building the relationships, gaining maturity, um, kind of figuring out how to exist with your colleagues and get the jobs done and make sure it's as much of a pleasant experience as it can be, because it's really really hard. We're very competitive, um, and sometimes each day that goes by it's not necessarily the same as the one before. So it's like, how do you find results, for the present situation and move forward?
Interestingly enough, I'm sort of making a connection to like when you talked about what you liked about being exposed to drum corps for the first time. Um, Instead of being so just like drumline specific, you appreciated all of it, right? So even maybe back then, it was like your brain was looking a little bit and appreciating a little bit more bigger picture, right? And so maybe then with what you're talking about now, it sort of makes that understanding that that's the dynamic you have to embrace, sort of makes that a little bit easier, right? Instead of just being so focused on and only caring about one part of it.
Right. Yeah. No, I think of course, I'm personally drawn to percussion, but like it wasn't just that drew me to the activity. It's the brass, it's the color guard, it's how all the things come together. The pageantry of it all, the color, the costuming, the set design, the props, all the things, the sound design, everything that we do now, how it comes together to create an experience or a journey, for 10, 11, 12 minutes, whatever it is. um without all the parts, you're not going to get that. So every single part of what we do is important, and the excellence level of each part makes it that special. So kind of understanding that, realizing that, knowing what everybody needs is different, but everybody's goal is to create this unbelievable, memorable, product. Um, you know, I think kind of understanding and realizing what that takes, it allows me to kind of like not just be so tunnel vision on my own thing.
Okay, in 2017, you reunite with Colin at Boston. and you guys go to Boston, and it's not the culture and community that you see now on the lot. What was it like building that there? From his brand there. I know he had marched there, but now he gets a chance to go to a place where he marched and to build it. What was that like from the beginning? How do you even start building like a culture that what we see now, the vibe of that line?
Um, well, I think that the goal is just excellence. I mean, that's just the driver. It's like how can we be the best thing that we can possibly be? Um, so as teachers and designers at that point, you're talking about, I mean, Colin, Ian Moyer, myself, we've I mean, those guys are decades now into it teaching wise. I mean, I'm over a decade into it at this point. But having that kind of experience come together, um, and a lot of the techs at that point weren't necessarily like recent age outs or really young teachers. They had maybe had a few years of experience, which certainly helps. So I think the maturity level and experience level of the staff, just from a starting level, and not only the percussion, but the entire drum corps, the brass line, the color guard, the visual team. There was a lot of experience coming into that season. So the bar was already kind of set for like where we could exist, as it relates to, the type of material we're able to write, the way that we can teach. Um, so coming into it, we kind of had our vision. Um, and from that point, it's recruiting, it's building the culture. It takes a lot of time. It's many years process. But coming back, doing it again, keeping the team together again and again and again, like it cultivates that sense of confidence and philosophy. Um, and then when you start to kind of see the competitive results, then it's the old if you build it they will come kind of thing. Like, our recruiting is a lot different now. We can be more selective. There's a different type of student and performer coming to the Crusaders now than back when we first started. So it's all just kind of through the process of doing, I think, what we know how to do, buying into a certain way of doing it, kind of not having, it's really easy to have a team of people that don't necessarily see eye to eye on a lot of things. And we certainly have our little things, but it's very little and it's very few. Where we see way more eye to eye, on every level, which I think helps, build that culture. When the students see the staff as one entity, that just gives them a clearer direction. I think it allows you to trust the people around you even more. Um, so it's just been a lot of that, over the years, and trying to have a good time. I mean, I certainly enjoy working with the people I work with, so that makes the experience even better. That's really why we're all doing this. It's the people, right? It's the years and years and the relationships that we've built, and trying to be great at something and motivate and inspire others, to come along for the ride. That's kind of why I think we do this.
There's a lot to be said about enjoying the people that you work with. Enjoying working with the people that you work with. Because I've been in situations where, I work with just the homies, and it's a fun time, and it goes by fast. Then I've had other situations. This is in my professional life where I work with people, and it's like, man, I just don't like working with this guy, and it's just a
And the
long
first and the
drag.
first little challenge that you face, it just breaks
Yes,
everything.
and
Yeah.
you just want to like go at each other, and
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Zach, something I'll point out. You had talked about when you were performing the consistency and the experience level of the staff, right? How valuable that was. Do you realize that people look at you, the current Boston staff, that way? Like you're literally you recreated what you had as a performer.
I guess so. I mean, I guess I don't necessarily think about it that way. I'm just kind of like doing what I do. But yeah, if I were to step back and kind of be more analytical, yeah, I could see how that's absolutely
You talked about why that was an asset,
yeah.
why that was important, and because the word you used was consistency,
Mhm.
right? It's like, it's funny how this year, with all the big sort of percussion staff changes, especially that were
Mhm.
going on after the season, Boston made a point to say, we're running it back, right?
Mhm.
We have the team. You know what we are. Uh, you know what to expect. Like, if you want this, then come and audition.
Sure. Yeah.
Something else you had mentioned before was how everybody knows this is Colin's ship that we're all sailing. Um, you have everybody on staff there, you included, are extremely capable. You you can do a lot, right? Is there any challenge at all to being asked to sort of narrow that and do a specific thing, or is it not a big deal at all? And the fact that you have awareness of all the sort of bigger things, does that just help you do the more specific thing better?
Yeah. I mean, I think especially, with Boston, we really do understand our roles. And we enjoy the roles that we do. So it does help, like I know what I have to do. You know what I mean? Okay, I got to go out and I got to get them from page 39 to 60 this afternoon, and I got to fill in page 40 to 43. You know what I mean? Like, so boom, I'm good to go. As long as I get that done, I know that I've set up the battery for whatever the next thing in the day is. Whether ensemble is going to be whatever it is that we're doing, we're ready to do that. But yeah, having those roles um, does make it easy. And I think, if you can just keep yourself in that world, it makes your experience a lot more enjoyable. Um, it makes your teammates experience a lot more enjoyable too. And the members kind of know what to expect at any point. When they see me come out, it's like, okay, this is going to be this type of thing. Especially early season, they know kind of what's about to happen. We try to set them up with, here's our goals, here's what we're doing, and then the appropriate staff step in and do their jobs. It helps us kind of meet our daily goals.
That's really interesting. I mean, I love that point that you made, that it's something that I sort of had an awareness of as a performer, and even being on staff with certain people. But you're right. It's like when you see a certain staff person come out and you're about to have a block with them, you sort of know you can anticipate what to expect. So that's great.
One last question from me. Is there ever a part of you that wants to be the main person in charge of a whole percussion team? I mean, or do you ever feel like you want to write? Do you like writing beats?
I do. Yeah, I mean, as we've kind of alluded to, I do a bunch of different roles for a lot of different ensembles, whether it's writing the music or writing the music and the choreography, or doing the staging and the choreography, whether it's not writing anything and it's just coming in and being a coach, running the ensemble, what have you. I know that my skill sets are there, to be able to do what you're talking about. Is it something that I want? I've definitely thought about it, but at the same time, I really enjoy what I do. With the people that I do it with and the roles that I have. That doesn't mean things, can't and won't change, as time goes on. But um, presently, for where I'm at and what I'm doing, it's not something that I think about too frequently. I do have those types of roles outside of drum corps. Um, you know, so I do have a way to kind of like get my fix, I guess, as it relates to kind of some of those other positions, whether it's, more of a in charge writing the music and running a program. I certainly do that in other areas of my career. But the drum corps thing, I mean, I definitely enjoy being a part of the team and doing the roles that I have. I mean, it's just so much fun, and especially to be able to do it at such a high level. It's kind of hard to like bag on it, it's a good time.
That's one thing Daniel Gutierrez was telling me. I texted him earlier, and he was saying that last year the high school line you taught got bumped to world, and you guys made finals.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Had you been teaching there a while? Was that a goal of yours, or did it just happen?
Yeah, I've been the school you're talking about, Brownsburg High School. I've been with Brownsburg since fall of 2016 loosely, and then more frequently going forward from there, fall 17, winter 18, and then it's kind of become, that's where I am the majority of the time, is here at Brownsburg in Indy. So yeah, no, I mean, the Brownsburg did not have an indoor program when we first started there. They didn't have, an indoor percussion. I don't know if they had a color guard before that, or an indoor color guard. I mean, they certainly had a marching band, but the WGI thing was certainly not really a thing for the program. So, when I first started, it was something that we talked about. Hey, we're going to start an indoor program, and we'll start in A class and kind of compete locally. And then as that program began and we started to kind of facilitate the culture and build it up, then the next thing came. It's like, all right, well, let's move to open and let's see how we can do there. And then it's like, all right, I think let's take this thing out to Dayton. We would kind of do the WGI regional here in Indy, but hey, we're not ready to go out to Dayton yet. And then we got to that point where we went out to Dayton. And then this past year, yeah, we had a strong group for sure, like one of the strongest groups we'd ever had. And then it just came to the point in mid-March when we got the email from Mark Thurston and company about reclassification to Worlds. So, it was a little bit late in the game, which kind of is challenging, certainly, to manage your membership, manage, how you're going to go about the remainder of your season. We certainly had goals that we had set for ourselves in open, but those goals were kind of quickly adjusted. So, long story, a little less long, just going out to Dayton and really trying to get 3 shows, because there was no, I mean, as you know, WGI, it's like you have no idea. Drum corps, you literally see all the drum corps all summer. They compete against each other way more frequently, in indoor, and even marching band for that matter. I mean, you don't see groups until you get to Dayton or you get to Indy, and you just have no idea how it's going to stack up. So for us to be able to kind of advance every single day and come out, with a finals appearance for the first time in Scholastic World, when that really wasn't what we were planning on our season being, was pretty cool.
Yeah, Dayton's a weird thing. I've never performed there, but it seems like it's very easy to have your heart broken, like on day 1
Yes.
or day 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very, very easy.
I taught a group that performed at prelims, and we were getting ready to unload the truck for rehearsal for semis,
yeah.
and finding out that we didn't make semis.
Yeah.
So that heartbreak is
it's brutal.
Real.
What's the term now? Preliminated.
Yes.
I wonder, where did that start? Somebody needs to like trademark that and throw it on a T-shirt or something.
Whoever thought of it is pretty smart.
I know, right? Yeah.
Zach, so is there like I wanted to ask you a little bit more about you as a creator, right? Expressing stuff. You talk about working with several different groups in various roles, right? If somebody wanted to get to know you and your aesthetic and your, like, instead of sort of being hidden amidst other people's stuff, maybe it's at the high school level, or maybe it's a particular part of a certain show. Can you point to anything where you're like, this is me on in either the indoor floor or on the field, where you're like, if people want to know who I am as sort of like a designer creator, this is what you would point to.
A good show for us to go watch to see your stuff.
I mean, I think Crown '09, The Grass is Greener, was probably one of the years where I feel like I kind of started doing more choreography. I mean, if I think about that show, I don't know that we had like a ton of choreography, but there were definitely several moments that were like, okay, that's the drum line doing the thing over there. I actually wrote some music for that show. Not a lot of people know that. But I did write I wouldn't say I wrote half of the book by any means, but maybe like a third of the beats for that show, which is kind of cool. And that was a really good drum line. So maybe that show, from a musical standpoint, there was some musical passages that I wrote. Certainly the movements for the drum line. But I think Brownsburg is certainly an ensemble that I think you could look at that group. There's obviously less out there of the group because what it's doing presently hasn't existed for a long time. It's still in its early stages of development and growth and kind of coming onto the scene. But I write the music for them and I do the staging for the indoor group and the movement. So, there's more of my thumbprint on Brownsburg's indoor program right now. Certainly Boston, as it relates to the movement side of things. I'm certainly coexist there with my counterparts, and but I think how they play, there's a big kind of that how they play is how I play. It's how Alex Beltran plays. It's how Colin plays. So there's kind of all of our approach is kind of in the way we kind of do things with Boston. It absolutely always comes from Colin, but as I said, we've all been a student of his. So there's a little bit of us kind of all on that brand. But yeah, I think some of those Crown shows and the Boston thing, it just depends. Are you listening to the music? Are you looking at the movement? Kind of those the last 15 years, any of those groups.
It's interesting that you bring up the '09 Crown, because I would describe. I mean, I feel like that was a time when Crown really took a step forward, in terms of forming what their identity was as an elite player in this activity for that era. I would describe it as being really interesting. Like the beats were interesting, the movement was interesting, the show and everything, the way it worked together was really interesting. Like it tickles your brain intellectually, So I like that you pointed that out. Do you take inspiration from? Obviously, you take a lot of inspiration from everybody that you've learned from and all of that stuff to create the things that you're asked to create. Do you bring anything from the outside world, into what you create, do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think maybe some of it depends on the show. Like what's the idea of the show? I mean, there's certainly always inspiration coming from somewhere. I mean, like last year with, to talk about Brownsburg again, I didn't know. Talking about Brownsburg last year in particular, I mean, I didn't know what the indoor show was going to be until mid-November, which is like pretty late, in the design process. But, it's just how different inspiration comes to you. I took a trip to Europe after BOA Grand Nationals, and, I spent time in art museums, different historical landmarks, and, just being over there in several different cities, it was like, I don't know, something just struck me, and we came back, or I came back from Europe, and I was like, I think I want to do a show that's like an art museum, so like that trip for me is what gave me the inspiration. But like, had I not gone on that trip and gone and seen the things that I saw over there, like, I don't know if that's what we do. Probably not. Maybe we do something else. Um, I think other things that inspire me from the outside are maybe some of the kind of off, uh, maybe that's not the right way to say it, but non marching band gigs that I've done, but have been related to marching band in a way, like where I've gotten a call to go be a performer with so and so wherever, and I just so happen to like be wearing a marching snare drum. So a few things that come to mind, way back when Destiny's Child had a track called Lose My Breath. And it starts with the drum line. It's like a 2-bar loop, right? And so, it's you hear this drum loop, and the group got back together, and MTV's TRL was a thing at the time, and Destiny's Child performed live on there, and they needed a drum line. And, I guess the cadets got a call. So, I went in and was a part of that drum line that did that. But like having that experience in Manhattan, really, I mean, it kind of doesn't get any bigger than that, right? Like, here I am playing a snare drum, and here comes Beyonce. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty cool. So trying to remember those moments, seeing how they rehearsed, the vibe of the studio, the lights, the way the cameras moved, the costuming, like some of those things that I've been able to do over the years, which are few and far between, but like, it's kind of neat, the show business aspect of it. I always try to kind of like teach my students about some of those moments that I've had, about how to perform, how to be, more of a professional in certain types of moments, and be flexible with this and that. So I do try to kind of pull from some of those performance gigs that I've had that are a little more high profile.
That's great. I mean, and actually makes sense, right? That you would have an awareness of not just like, okay, what's my job? I got to put on this drum and I got to play these beats. That you're taking in everything, right? You're taking in how everything is being put together. I think you sort of instilling that, or trying to sort of instill that awareness in your students is valuable, because how often do students get just tunnel vision, like they're looking down at their pad and their hands, and that's literally all they think exists, right?
Any tips for prospective Boston Crusader drumline members for auditions?
Yeah, well, I mean, be prepared. You got to show up. I mean, I know it sounds simple, but you have to physically show up, like come be seen. And then when you are seen, be prepared with the material. You'd be surprised, I can't tell you how many, the years I was marching, I mean, there would be people that I'd be talking to, oh, I really want to march there. And they'd be all about it. And then it would come time to go to camp to audition, and they'd be nowhere to be seen. Well, you just took yourself out of it because you just didn't come to camp. You know what I mean? So you physically have to be there, so that the people that are going to, select the ensemble can see you. What are you bringing to the table? That's absolutely part of it. Be flexible. Everybody's coming from a different program, a different high school, a different college, maybe even a different drum corps, and that's awesome. But no matter where you want to march, if you want to go march, whoever, like, are you going to come in there and be like, well, I'm doing it this way, and what you're saying is not how I'm used to doing it? Well, that's a really easy way to get shown the door. You know what I mean? And you might be a great player, but we're trying to mold all these different individuals into the Boston brand, and if there's obviously some reason why you are here, if you've shown up, if you've gone through the steps to come here and prepare the packet, like, it doesn't make any sense for you to come in there and be, a hard head about whatever your previous experience is, and that's the way I'm going to do it. I've seen that plenty of times where people will come in and they can't take information from the staff. They can't make adjustments to their technique. They can't, you know, or maybe it's not that they can't, maybe it's that they won't, So I think it's just being flexible and knowing like, hey, this team of people is well educated, has a ton of experience. We're successful competitively. So we know what we're doing. So if you really want to be a part of this, do everything that you can to be noticeable, in the sea of people trying out, and be like the best team player, the best member that you can be. Because really, I mean, it's all about growth. Like you might not be able to play that part perfect right now, but maybe when you come back tomorrow or at the next camp, I can tell, hey, that's way better. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's what we want to see. It's like consistent growth. Like keep chipping away at it, keep getting better, keep doing the work, because then the rest kind of falls into place.
The thing I love about what you described is that is the beginnings of having a group that has as strong of an identity as Boston does. Maybe not begins with, but who you select and their willingness and moldability and everything you just described is crucial to that. And I would say, if I was a member looking at Boston as a place to go march, I would almost assume that, because it's not like there's a million high schools out there playing Colin McNutt type of beats the way Boston does. It's almost like it's from the outside, my assumption would be, I got to show up and try to, and let them show me how they create that, because you don't really see it a whole lot of other places.
Right. Yeah.
But I've also heard that before from like, I have a friend who's really good friends with Colin, and he tells me, Colin really values people who are willing to show up and, again, be moldable and do those things that are being asked of them, even sometimes over whatever their level of ability is on that day, so that really makes sense. I think that does it for a lot of our questions. Zach, is there anything else before we wrap this up?
You have any sponsors?
Yeah.
Shout out to any of your sponsors.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I've been with Vic Firth for a long time. As an educator, part of the education team. I would say they're kind of Vic Firth, Zildjian are the ones I would say absolutely. I never really signed with a drum company. It's funny.
Zach, thank you for doing this.
Appreciate it. No, thank you for having me.
What's great about this conversation is, I'm sure a lot of people see you again and are aware of you, but this conversation gave us a better look at just how involved you are, in all different kinds of ways at various places. And we appreciate that glimpse into that. So, thank you for spending the time with us. I know that it's really late where you are. So,
not that late.
Yeah.
And we're excited to see what's going to come from United this year. We're always excited about what Boston has in store for us. And I know that process, auditions are going to be coming up and stuff for them. But thank you for taking the time. It really, it means a lot to us.
Yeah. I learned a lot, because I think I told you this a while back when we ran into each other. I thought you had just aged out, like,
right. Yeah.
within like the last 10 years,
No, I appreciate, I mean, it means I don't look too old, but I definitely appreciate the thought. Lost one. Appreciate the thought of having me on, and it's been a great conversation with you guys.
And I think the first time I met you was at Corpus Christi.
Oh, were you there? Were you at that rehearsal where we just showed up and like bum rushed you with all the cameras?
Yeah,
to the 2022, right? Yeah, on the tennis court.
Yes. and we get like some evil eyes.
Yeah, we definitely got some sideways.
Oh yeah. And it was one of those things. Dude, for years, George and I were like, man, do we go by Boston again? Because it looked like some of the guys there.
I mean, that was like
staff, but like
that was like the perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
It was the day after free day. It was really hot and humid. I think you guys had just done a head change, or like at least the snares had just done a head change. And we just roll up with cameras and we're like, can we put a GoPro on? And everybody's like, who are these guys?
Yeah. And you get the, no, I'm good.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
No, it's cool. I don't want that.
I'm straight.
Yeah,
It's all right.
But yeah, it ended up being cool. And like a lot of people ended up watching those videos.
Yeah, well, I mean, we appreciate the exposure. I mean, obviously there are certain days and times of day where we feel more confident in having the cameras around than others. I mean, certainly if we have brand new heads on and if we're doing a change or what have you, it's like, maybe don't film this. We're behind the scenes right now. But
Funny enough, though, I like, Colin's thing, and maybe it's like a recent thing for him, where like this year especially,
Yeah.
he was like, show it all, show the dirt, show me cutting, like let's
Put everything out there.
instead of making everything look so perfect, right? Because that's not realistic for, it's not a realistic picture of what's actually happening.
Well, even for like the younger generation that's watching, it shows them that, hey, my heroes, they're out there, they're figuring stuff out too. It's not just 100% 100 all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Colin was like, yeah, show everything. I want everybody to see it. I want them to know what it's like, the journey to where we're going to be at the end. And a lot of people appreciated that in the comments on the YouTube video that I put up. I just wish I would have had a mic to put on Colin. If he would have let me, that would have been great.
right, yeah.
Yeah. But it's like I was saying, your guys' lot vibe it's enjoyable. It's just a vibe,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. It's definitely something that we think is pretty cool, for the brand. I mean, the lots that we have at Boston are it's like, I mean, I certainly didn't have anything like that when I was marching at cadets. It is a show in itself, which is really, it's a great thing for our members. The staff enjoys it too. I mean, we just kind of stand around and are ready to change a drum head if we need to, but yeah, it's a cool part of our day, when we get to those shows, to have those types of performances and have everybody kind of in there close. And it is a vibe, it's a whole different way to kind of look at drum corps, and that kind of up close and personal. I mean, you feel it. I mean, that's something I'll never forget as a kid, and something that drew me to wanting to be in a drum line was when they strike the instrument, like how it resonates in your chest cavity. You know what I mean? Like when you're that close to it, it's pretty unforgettable.
Like we always say, our lot videos are merely an invitation to come check it out live. I cringe now at all the people who make such, decisive judgments based on the videos that people take. And I'm like, that's not what it sounds like. That's not what it feels like in person.
The armchair quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're always going to be there.
Exactly. They're always watching.
Yeah.
But like we said, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. And with that, we'll say goodnight. And if you're out there watching this, drop us some comments. Go donate to your favorite corps, or like I've been saying the last couple times, go donate to the corps that you hate, so you guarantee they'll be around for you to keep hating them for a long time.
And also, go donate to Grace Notes.
Grace Notes. What's that?
GN. You keep pointing at. Oh, it's on my hat.
Yeah,
it's on your hat too. GN.gives.
There we go.
And there we go.
All right.
The Grace Notes bracelet.
GN.give.
I was just saying it's a pretty awesome way to support the present membership.
100%. 100%. And that being said, hey, good night, everybody. We'll see you next time here on the Drum Corps Coffee Shop Podcast.